Have you ever thought about why having emotional control really matters? Well, here are just a few reasons. Number one, lack of emotional control affects ourselves. Whenever we completely lose our temper or become unraveled with anxiety, many times we lose our own sense of peace. When we look back on those situations where we lost emotional control, we often are filled with regret. And this, in many cases, leaves us in a situation where we may not respect ourselves or we may not have confidence in particular situations. When we lose our emotional control, the first person it affects is ourselves. Number two, lack of emotional control sometimes hurts others. It's obvious that when we lose our temper, our hurtful words can hurt the people in our lives. But the opposite is also true. Whenever we become overcome with fear, and that fear causes us not to defend or stand for the people who are counting on us to protect them, again, they are affected by our inability to manage our emotions and exhibit emotional control. Number three, lack of emotional control often affects our relationships. It might be with our personal relationships with our loved ones, our spouse, our children, our parents, or our friends. Or lack of emotional control may affect our relationships at work, for example, with our supervisor, our peers, our direct reports, or even our clients. When we lose emotional control, it can affect our relationships. Number four, lack of emotional control often affects our reputation. Let's be honest. Just because we lack emotional control does not necessarily mean that we lose the relationship completely. But many times people continue in a relationship with us despite our lack of emotional control, out of self-interest, or simply because they are being gracious. Just because a person is continuing in relationship with us despite our lack of emotional control does not mean that they respect us. The relationship may continue, but we may lose our reputation. And finally, number five, lack of emotional control often affects our influence. When we hurt others, when we affect our relationships, when we lose their respect by virtue of our lack of emotional control, ultimately what we compromise is our relational equity. And when we lose that relational equity with people, what we actually compromise is our influence.